Pat Nunley, former Baylor, part of the Hall of Fame at Baylor Athletics, and also the color analyst for Baylor Radio when it comes to men's basketball, joins us on 365 Sports. So, besides the obvious, Pat, Josh Ojianwuna is out. Your thoughts about, they have nothing else. I know Osamada's there, but, I mean, how are they going to defend people without any height?
Well, that's the problem. And it's defense in the low post, but it's also rim protection. I mean, he is 6'10", and he's an athletic 6'10", and so not only does he get more than his fair share of blocks, but he alters a lot of shots, and he has become a really good rebounder. In conference play, he's, I think, at 7 points, 8 rebounds, might be 8.7 rebounds, but with those kind of numbers coming from the low post, that Baylor can win a lot of games doing that. So, to answer your question, I think what they do, Smokey, is do what they or leverage a strength that they have, and that's team speed. And if they're able to get stops and get the ball in transition and utilize some of their 94-foot speed in a game, I think that might compensate for it. I think you're going to see, particularly tonight, they're going to try to keep Houston out of the half court and on Houston's offensive end. And Baylor offensively is going to try to get in the open floor as much as they can, because without Ojianwuna, you've got to focus on what you do well. And that, to me, is pressure at the guard spot, and then it's team speed.
Yeah, do you expect to see them now try to – I mean, 90 in a college game is tough to get to, but try to be in the 80s most nights?
I think so. I mean, we're going to have to score points. And this is a team that has firepower offensively, and we've seen that time and time again. Now, you see it a lot more at home than you do on the road, which is, I think, the case for just about any team. But they've got to somehow take advantage of the firepower that they have. They're still one of the top, in terms of offensive efficiency, they're one of the top 10 teams in the country, and you just have to leverage that. And I think that's what they'll try to do. It's not necessarily they're going to outscore everybody, but defensively, they're playing the best half-court defensive team in the country tonight. I think Baylor's defensive efficiency is around 64, 65. So it's a tough team to try to outscore, but you do have to figure out how to unleash the firepower that they have offensively. And now with Langston Love back into the offense, what you lose defensively with Ojianwuna out, you gain offensively with Love coming in.
With Josh out tonight in particular, just this is Norchad Omier going to have his hands full with J'Wan Roberts more in a way that he wouldn't have?
I think so. And I think the big key with Omier is foul trouble. He cannot get into foul trouble tonight. And I think that's really going to be the case for the remainder of the year, because it's been clear all season long that when Ojianwuna goes out, we are small. And you talk about that, but then when you see that happen, we go from a team that does have some rim protection to a team whose tallest player really effectively on the floor is 6'7". And so, yeah, I think it's make sure that you keep Omier out of foul trouble. And it's also with Roberts, it's the old, don't give up shots that you can't defend. And with Roberts, it's front the low post. Don't let him touch it down there. Now, I'm not making that sound easier than it really is, but don't let him touch it there. And a lot of that, too, is ball pressure on the guys trying to throw it in there. But then when he catches it there, and hopefully that's not very often, you got a double team from the weak side and make him pass it out. So it's going to be it's very difficult, but I think that is the number one focus of this team defensively tonight is on Roberts in the low post.
Pat, why does it seem like, and even when you played, was it this way guarding, left-handers always seem to be so smooth?
Yeah, it just looks better. I've got a buddy who's left-handed, and when we go play golf, I watch his swing. That thing is just so beautiful. I don't know what it is, but this guy, not only is he left-handed, I mean, he is predominantly left-handed. And that's, I think, another thing they'll work on tonight. Everything is right shoulder with him. And so when you're playing him in the low post, or when he gets it at the left elbow, which he does a lot, you just can't let him go left. And he's 6'8", 250 or something. He's going to go about wherever he wants to go. But it's not only, David, is it a nice look, for a left-handed player. It just seems like left-handed guys are harder to guard.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about it that the ball's coming out of the left hand, not the right. You don't anticipate it quite as well. And they all seem, at least the left-handed guys I always played with, that played 3 and 4 spots, always seem to be kind of nasty. It just seemed like they always had loose elbows and all of that. But I don't know. Bottom line is he's a really good player, and he's a graduate player, and he has spent his career at the University of Houston.
I love that part of it. Obviously, wherever somebody is, but to have it all in one place with Kelvin Sampson and that program, that's awesome.
Yep.
Pat, I thought this a couple weeks ago when Love and Roach went out. Sometimes, and they don't need them to be out a long time, but I think that was good for VJ Edgecombe. It was really good for Rob Wright, obviously, because he got to show what he can do, and he's the kind of take over a game guy at point guard that they maybe haven't had in a minute. But for VJ in particular, and now similar situation where he's going to have to go hunt. Has that maybe accelerated his effectiveness over these last couple weeks because now there's not anybody kind of stopping his progress out there?
Yeah, Paul, I think that's a great point. And I think, obviously you need bodies and you need players like Love and Roach, but when those guys were out, it was Edgecombe's job. He was the slasher. He was the driver. He's not deferring to anybody else to do that. Now, Rob Wright's going to do that as well. But when Edgecombe's on the floor, I think that this will be the case even tonight. Now, he's still a little bit raw. He's got a lot to learn. But nobody on the floor does what he can do on the floor when he does it. And you got to take advantage of that. And one way you do that is you get him in situations where he's isolated. He's making threes now, and he is really hard to guard. But I think that the situation you just talked about, Paul, allowed him to spit the bit a little bit and be able then to really do what he does best, and that's just play. Nobody gets loose balls like VJ Edgecombe, and he gets rebounds that he'll come down with it, and you think, how did he even do that? How did he even get to the ball? You got to unleash him, and I think now that he had that spell that he had, even with Love and Roach back, you're going to see a lot more of that.
Pat, Scott's has had the change of who they were before. Remember the Tristan Clark year? That's probably one of the great coaching jobs of all time. Big man goes down. They end up going very, very small. And eventually, with that type of mentality, win a national title, although they had some dudes inside. With that, knowing what he's done before, does that make it a little bit easier, knowing he'll figure out a way this time?
I think so. And I think that's also a really good point, Smokey. He also likes guards. I can't remember the number. I think it's 12 of his last 13 point guards have gotten some sort of all Big 12 recognition at the end of the league. And that's a huge number. He likes to play fast. He likes guards that can shoot and can penetrate and finish at the rim and make free throws. And now he's going to have 4 of them on the floor most of the time. And so he's accustomed to that. I think he likes it. He's certainly up for the challenge. You think of the national championship team. That was a guard-dominated team, no doubt. Mm-hmm. And, you've got a dude inside in the Vital. You've got rim protection with Flo. But that was a team that was its juice was at the guard spot. I think he likes that. And I like their chances tonight. I do. Houston is really, really good. But lately, anyway, they haven't been dominant. And I think it's a decent time for Baylor to come down and play. I think, too, you're going to see less scripted offense, and you're going to see a lot more, let's just roll it out and play and leverage our speed, leverage our ability to get to the glass, create some turnovers, get it in transition, and see if they can just score a bunch of points.
How much does Langston love, not just the fact he's back, and we know it was almost a little drama there, but the constant waiting, practicing, and then not available. Sometimes on the night before a game, Scott would get a call. But the fact he played and Pat was also good. I mean, he looked like he had not been gone for very long at all.
Yeah, and he's a Big 12 guard. He's 6'5", he's 215. He knows how to use his body. He doesn't make bad passes, and he doesn't take bad shots. And then on the defensive end of the floor, he just anticipates the game so well because he's been at it so long, and he's been at it at a high level. He understands the Big 12. He understands what it takes to win at this level. So the numbers are great, but the experience and the savvy and just the wisdom that he has from having played so long is invaluable. And they're really going to need that down the stretch. So I'm hoping his level of play continues tonight and throughout the rest of the Big 12 race. And then as far as this team is going to go, getting him back is huge, particularly with the loss of Ojianwuna.
Yeah, they can't just – they had 40 points off the bench. 40?
Yeah.
I asked Scott when was the last time he did that. He goes, probably when we actually had an 8 or 9 man rotation. It can happen. You know, it's just,
it can. Yeah, I saw that. That jumped off the page at me. I said, Scott, what is this like? You had 40 bench points, and he just rolled his eyes.
Yeah.
Pat, is Kelvin Sampson the best active coach without a championship right now?
Probably so. Probably so. And, you know, he made an interesting comment, and this was back when his team went to the Final Four, about to play us in the Final Four. He made an interesting comment. He said, you have a number of coaches in the Hall of Fame that have never even been to a Final Four. Gene Cady never went to a Final Four. John Chaney at Temple never went to a Final Four. And it's hard to do. It's hard to win it all, obviously. It takes a lot more than just having a good team. But the work that he has done down here, I think here more than any place else he's ever been, including Oklahoma, has been noteworthy for sure. And he does it in a quiet way. And what I love about him, too, is he's one of the few guys that's been able to, in the new age of college basketball, transfer portal, all of that, he's made it clear that we're going to talk NIL after you sign. Like, I'm not buying players. I'm not bringing players in. You come in, get into the culture, you invest, you commit to the time it's going to take to get you better here, and we're going to grow you up in our system. And for the most part, now he's got Uzan from Oklahoma as a transfer, but for the most, and he's got LJ. But LJ's now been there. It's at least his second year. You've got guys that have now kind of grown up in that program. Roberts is Exhibit A for that. And man, this day and age, that is hard to do. And if you can pull it off like he has, you're going to have the kind of teams that he's got now.
Yeah, I think he's a great coach. He's a great recruiter, motivator. But I also think he has that that he kind of has that aura that you don't want to disappoint Dad. And that's kind of like who he is, not because of some kids in their back, nothing like that. It's like you don't want to disappoint Kelvin Sampson.
No, you don't. And one other thing I like about him, and I like a lot about him, he is very gracious. I remember when Baylor had its run, he was the first guy in the league really to stand up and say, "That's a special team. That's our team. We're pulling for them." And so he's a guy that there's a lot more to him than meets the eye. He looks gruff on the sidelines, and he is, and that's just the way he coaches. But his players love him. They love it. And he respects the jobs that other coaches have done across the league and across the country. And he might be Scott Drew's biggest fan.
Pat, thank you very much. Paul, anything else for Pat?
No.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's great to have you on again, Pat Nunley, Baylor radio color analyst, former Baylor basketball player with us on the Bears.